Now let's get our hands dirty into practical hacking of deep links in Android apps. Let's head over right into the deep link activity because this is where we are interested. From this source code, you can see that when it is activated, the onCreate function is invoked and it performs a few actions, okay? It checks if the intent which activated this activity is not null and checks if the action specified in the intent is android.intent.action.view, and also it checks if the URI data is passed as intent extras, okay? And if all these checks are true, then there is this function that is going to be processed, that is process deep link. It is going to be called with the URI from the intent being passed in as an argument. So let's go to process deep link. The function accepts the URI as the only argument, checks if the URI scheme is over secured and if the URI host is over. If all those are true, then there is a path that is extracted from the URI and is of course processed, okay? And there are 4 URI paths, as you can see here. We have logout, we have login, we have grant URI permission, and we have web view, okay? So if we examine the logout, if the path is logout, the application logs the user out and redirects the user to a new activity, that is entrance activity. If we come into this activity, you can see it gets an instance to check whether you are logged in. If you are logged in, then you are redirected to this activity, else you are redirected to oversecured.ovaa.action.login. So I assume this is a login. From this analysis, we can start this activity, specify this action view and this path. So just type this command, and this is for the action. This specifies the action, and this is specifies the data, or the data that we are going to pass into, and this is the class that we are going to use, okay? So if you enter, then you are going to realize that the application actually logs out. So let's do that. ADB will always help you to check whether any section of an application can be able to be accessed by a third-party application or an application that is installed in the same phone. So ADB is a fast way to check whether it's going to be successful, rather than coding and then checking whether it's vulnerable or not. So as you can see, we had already logged into this application, okay? Let's send this command from our terminal ADB and see what happens to this application, okay? As you can see, it's logged out. Of course, that means we can create a malicious application and we can be able to force the user to log out of the application, okay? Let's examine the login path, okay? If the login path is login/login, a query parameter URL is going to be extracted from a URI and be assigned to a string of URL variable. And if the value of the extracted query parameter URL is not null, which is of course assigned to this, then the function setLoginURL is called with this extracted URL as its argument. And after all this is done, there is an activity, entrance activity again, that is being started. So let's see what setLoginURL does. So it's under loginutils class. So there seems to be the function saves the URL passed as an argument to the file login data in the shared previous and the key login URL. So taking our time into this loginutils class, you realize that there is a shared preference editor named editor, and you can see under the login utils we have context, shared preferences, and actually there is a context in the shared preferences as login data. If we come to our set URL, you can see that it's saving the URL query string into the preferences file. So the URL passed in as an argument to the file login data in the shared preferences under the key login URL. So that is basically what this function does. So it saves that URL in the login data file under shared preferences. What we're going to do, we are going to log into the application once again. We just need to have a look at the login data file that is created by default, okay, when we log in. So that's where the data seems to be sent. So let's check that one out. We're going to use ADB again. So let's type ADB shell. Let's go into cd data, okay, plus we are interested in this cd shared preference plus, as you can see, we have login data here. We realize there is nothing inside here. There is nothing, and it seems we had logged out. So let's log in again and see what we are going to find. Okay, .com. Let's log in. Okay, now that we are logged in, so you can see now we have this password that I set and this email. So this is very weird, and you can see the default login URL is this one. Okay, so what can possibly go wrong here? The login service.login function just posts the login data to the login URL, which we can control. If we can overwrite this http example.com URL with a URL that we have control over, the next time any user logs in, the credentials will be posted to our URL that we control. There's that weakness of forcing an application to log out. So all we can do is install a malicious application in the phone, then we force the user to log out, wait for them to log in, and we obtain the credentials. So for us to understand this flow, we need to check login activity flow. Okay, if you check on this activity, we have the process login, which is what we are interested in. The process login function takes the username and password, then call the login function inside the login service. So these login utils.getIn login URL gets the value of the login URL from the login data.xml shared preferences file, and of course the login data consists of the email and password. So what does this function do? It seems to this function just posts the login data to the login URL, which we control. The next thing we have to do is just force the user to log out. Since we've already overwritten our login URL, then we just wait for the user to log in and we obtain the credentials. So that's what we are going to do next.